Aloha. Welcome to Netra's News. This is Netra Halperin. And this evening we have a very timely topic. We're going to be talking about the Filipino community, resources, issues, strengths. And we have Norma Borroga here. Norma is the principal of Maui Community School for Adults and a board member of Binhi at Ani.
Aloha, Netra. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of your program this evening.
You're welcome. I'm very happy to have you here. So maybe why don't you start off with actually giving a little a bio so people know kind of where you're from, what your background is.
Yes, I was born and raised in the Philippines. I came to Hawaii more than 30 years ago. And when I came over, I was working with the Department of Education as a psychological examiner.
Yeah.
And somebody in the Department of Education encouraged me and motivated me to go back to school and become a teacher, which I did while working part-time at Po'onene School. That's where I started.
Okay.
And the following year it closed down, so I transferred to Baldwin High School.
Okay.
So while teaching at Baldwin High School, I was going back to school for my master's in educational administration. And after 8 years of teaching, I trained as school administrator and became vice principal at Maui High School and then at Kihei Elementary School. And later became principal at Lanai High and Elementary School for 4 years. And then came back, worked for the King Kekaulike complex as their school renewal specialist. And when there was a vacancy here downtown, I became the school renewal specialist for Baldwin complex schools. That means all the schools in the Wailuku area. And from there I became the principal for the Maui Community School for Adults. And I would like to take this opportunity to inform our audience this evening that the Maui Community School for Adults is one way for those adults who don't have high school diploma to come and take their GED or the Hawaii competency-based high school diploma program to earn their State of Hawaii high school diploma.
So it's never too late.
It's never
too late to learn.
Yes.
So it would seem from your background that you're very familiar with Maui's educational system from all sides. You started with the psych testing, then you were a teacher, then you were a principal, and you were at many different schools. So you know Maui's educational system inside and out. Yes.
I've been through so many superintendents and many different schools in the Maui County.
And we didn't talk about this before, but now I'm just really curious. What would your advice be for Maui School District? Not that we have a school district, but our complex. What would your advice be to improve education here on Maui?
To improve education, we need support for our teachers.
Absolutely.
In terms of professional development, because you mentioned earlier that learning is something that should continue.
Right.
It's a lifelong endeavor.
Absolutely.
So research has shown that if you have effective teachers in the classroom, then student achievement goes up.
Absolutely. And so that should be provided, and that should be part of the DOBE budget, is to not only have the teachers teach, but to get their ongoing learning, and that they should be compensated. And I say that because teachers are not paid very much. And so we can't be, in addition to the class time, expecting them to volunteer their time. So I think that they should be compensated for that time, because, I know teachers who work at, restaurants in the evening just because they don't have enough money.
Yes.
That's somebody, one of your students or colleagues calling you right now.
I think so, but we can take care of that later.
So, and we have numerous videos here this evening, one. They're very persistent. Okay, good. One is called People's Power Revolution, and I think the reason that we wanted to show this is because we want to give a context, right?
Right.
Because any culture, you know, even though there's Filipino people here in Hawaii, they come from a context. And so we wanted to show what happened in the Philippines. What is the context of that culture?
Yes, and that's what we would like to do tonight. We can show the people power revolution, which is one way of expressing what's on your mind.
Exactly.
But what we would like to encourage people here in Maui is that there are other ways to express your opinion or whatever is on your mind. And one way is to do it in a peaceful manner. Absolutely. Within the parameters of your legal rights.
Exactly, exactly. So in a minute we'll be playing that.
Yes.
Magkakapit-pisig, libu-libong tao, kay sarap pala maging Filipino. Sama-sama, iisa ang adhikain, kailanman di na maaalipin. Ang loob Pilipino sa mundo, mapayapa para ang pagbabago. Katotohanan, kalayaan, katarungan ay kayang makamit na walang taas. Basta't magkaisa tayong lahat.
Basta nang nagaganap sa aming bayan, magkasama ng mahirap at mayaman.
Kapit-bisig, madre, pari at sundalo, naging langit itong bahagi ng mundo.
Huwag muling payagang umira lang dilim.
Tinig ng bawat tao'y bigyan ng pansin. Magkakapatid lahat sa Panginoon, ito'y lagi nating tatandaan.
So I first learned about the People's Power Revolution when I was working at the legislature for Representative Rita Cabanilla, and she took me to the Philippine consulate on the day for the presentation and the celebration, and I was very impressed. So could you give the audience a brief history of the People's Power Revolution?
Well, we all know that the former President Ferdinand Marcos has ruled or served as a president for a long time. And the significance of the People Power Revolution is to signify that people can be united and express their opinions. And that's what people did. They all got together as one, and they were able to take the power from Ferdinand Marcos. And that's when President Corazon Aquino came to power. But it's a long history about the Marcoses and the Aquinos in the Philippines. And the reason why I'm wearing yellow today is to signify that, on Maui, there could also be a People Power Revolution in a peaceful manner.
Absolutely.
And that's what we did on May 26 here on Maui because of that issue on AIDS discrimination.
Okay, so we do have a video about the dancer protest at the Barrio Fiesta. And,
yes.
And again, the purpose of showing this is to just highlight that people can make their voices heard in a public way, in a peaceful way, and that's what we do here in America.
Yes, Netra, and I would like to inform our audience right now that the purpose of that demonstration was not to prohibit people from participating in the Barrio Fiesta, but the main purpose of that demonstration was to make people aware that they have the right to express their own opinion in a peaceful manner, which we did on May 26 at the Barrio Fiesta site.
Excellent. Okay, so let's look at the video.
Okay, when you say Barrio Fiesta, it's supposed to be the Filipino folk dances, and we still do that at the Barrio Fiesta. However, because of the multi-ethnic type of thing, and now we wanted to show people that we can do other things also, not just folk dancing, but like the Dance International production dancers that you have seen earlier. They now include hula, Tahitian dances, in addition to the Filipino folk dances.
Absolutely, and that we're going kind of back in time, and so that was the oldest dancers,
yes.
And then we were going to show some younger dancers and younger.
Right.
So kind of to talk about dance as a activity that one can do throughout their whole life.
Right, and you see these middle-aged women with their partners, and this is one of the Filipino folk dances, or Barrio Fiesta. So you're right, there are different age groups
Absolutely.
that would participate in fiestas or festivals
Yes.
in the Philippines.
Yes.
And we would like to at least do the same thing, if not, something different, but we would still have the element of the Filipino culture. So you would see like this one now. This is Filipino dance that shows Spanish influence. You see their outfit, they're dressed in Maria Clara, which is of Spanish origin.
Okay, we're having a little technical difficulties, folks. Excuse us. But anyway, we've got a great crew. this evening. So exactly. So it's expressing different cultures and through different times.
Yes, and different age groups.
Absolutely.
You've seen the young ones, you've seen the middle-aged women, you've seen the seniors.
Yeah.
And that was the point there. Like the Barrio Fiesta is for everyone.
Yes.
It's not just for the young people.
Absolutely.
But it's for all ages. Or you can say children of all ages or people of all ages. Yes, and that should be something that is inclusive. And you see these young ladies now dancing. That's one of the famous dances. And they show their skills in balancing the glasses on their hands and on their heads.
Amazing.
So, and we talk about strengths and talents of the Filipinos, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
They express it through the dancing and the skills that they have.
Absolutely.
In doing that. It's the beauty and the grace and, you know, the trying to perpetuate the Filipino culture. I'd like to really thank Madeline Pascua, who is the director of the Dance International Productions, and her dancers that we have seen earlier in those different dances. And they continuously do that in the different parts of the state, because they don't just dance here on Maui, but they go to even like Washington. I know that they went to Washington State to perform the different dances. So thank you very much, Madeline, for doing that.
Absolutely. Okay, so we gave a backdrop before we talked about the protests we're going to show of dancing, of the dancing in the Filipino culture and in the Barrio Fiesta specifically. So now that we've seen that, now let's go to the actual protest. So you wanted to highlight this. It's empty.
Yes.
Okay, so you wanted to highlight the last part because it was empty.
Yes, it was. There was actually, I call it dead time, from like 10 o'clock in the morning up until their program at about around 6 o'clock or even close to 7 o'clock in the afternoon. So what was my reason for showing this is because I would like to be part of that group. I'm part of that Señoras de Kahuloy, the old folks, the seniors, and we prepared for the Barrio Fiesta so we can contribute to the celebration. And then at last minute, we were informed that we don't have a spot in the program.
That was disappointing for you.
Yeah, it was very disappointing for people. And the other reason that was given to us was that because we're too old and there are stairs to the stage and they were concerned about our safety. But I think I can run. I can run 10 miles, Netra. Right. And I can go up and down my house.
Right.
You know, with no problem.
Yeah, so that's...
So, I mean, everybody should be included. Yeah. And in America, we believe that we should not be afraid to express our opinion. We were discriminated, so we did it peacefully. The demonstration was intended to raise the awareness of the Filipino people specifically, to say that don't be afraid to express your opinion. That is one of your rights that is guaranteed in the United States Constitution.
Absolutely.
As long as you do it peacefully and within the parameters of the law, it's okay. The demonstration wasn't intended to boycott.
No,
The Barrio
it's not
Fiesta.
personal. It's more about standing up for yourself.
Yes, and making sure that people know that they have rights. And there's no reason to be afraid. In fact, Netra, the police officers were called to the site.
Yeah.
And the lieutenant was there. And I mean, they cannot arrest us because we are doing
You're within
it
your rights.
Within the rights, and we know the rules when you do demonstration. And I want you to understand this, that as long as you are not interfering the pedestrian,
Yeah.
and you're not blocking the sidewalks, and you're 20 feet away from the crosswalk, then it's okay. And that's what we did. We made sure that we followed the rules, and we consulted with the police department before we held the demonstration.
Absolutely.
So we would like to thank those people who came and supported us. Some of them are running for office, which I will not name them. And we really thank those people.
Yes,
for the support.
For their courage.
Yes, for their courage.
And something I kind of came to the other day, which is liberty and fitness both require exercise to keep them.
Yes.
And even in the United States, some of our freedom of speech is being challenged. There are certain things at the federal level. There's a new law that you cannot talk badly about a president or a presidential candidate within a certain number of yards. And I absolutely wouldn't want anybody to feel their safety threatened. But if you go into public office, that's part of the agreement, that people can criticize what you're doing. And so I think it's really important that all of us, of any nationality, really make sure that our freedoms of speech are guaranteed and protected.
Yes, and going back to the video that we showed earlier of the people power revolution, to me that is a testament of the awareness of the Filipino people, that they know that they have rights. They know that as long as they're doing it the right way, that they have the right to assemble together.
Peacefully
and
assemble.
Let people know that this is their message. And they finally did. They got together and give the former President Marcos the message that they're together and there's power when people come together.
Absolutely. That is the power.
Then I would like to go back to the idea of not allowing the seniors to dance because they're too old. But you know the national trend right now, you mentioned about exercise?
Yes.
That there is a push to encourage the seniors to be more active and exercise. And dancing is a form of exercise.
A great exercise because it's fun, it's social, it's beautiful to watch.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wonderful. So we have some other videos, and these are about history, the history of Filipinos coming to Hawaii. So we have the Maui Rice Festival. So you wanted to highlight this. It's empty.
Yes. That's an attorney, Tony Romel, and he is the founder of the Rice Festival.
Mary Cochran.
That's Mary Cochran.
Reporter Chris Hamilton.
Yes, and these are the evangelistas, Roger and Ninita. This is council member Joe Pontanilla and wife Charlotte. And this is a bell. And I'd like to talk about the bell. And these are some of the sakadas that rang this bell. This is an old Navy bell that took the place of the sakada bell or the centennial bell. what happened is that the Rice Festival is celebrated around December 20, around that time. December 20 is an important date in the history of the sakadas, because on December 20, 1906, the first 16 sakadas arrived here in Hawaii. The sakadas are the Filipino contract workers who were contracted by the Hawaii sugar plantation to work in the sugar cane fields. And the first 16 arrived on December 20, 1906.
Okay.
So Tony Ramil thought that it would be really a good way to honor the sakadas through a celebration, and he named it the Rice Festival.
Look at me when you're talking.
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Yes, and this is the third one. I mentioned about the bell. We purchased Sakada Centennial Bell in 2006. That was the 100th year of the Sakadas in Hawaii. And that bell was locked up in the Filipino Community Center. This third Rice Festival was held in the school across, Maui Waina, across the street from the Filipino Community Center. And we couldn't get the bell. So one of the sons of a Sakada said, "Oh, I have an old Navy bell that we can hang so the Sakadas can ring it."
Yeah, so they found a solution.
They found a solution, and the celebration turned out to be good.
Yeah, yeah. Found, you did quick thinking.
Quick thinking. And it's during this Rice Festival when we honor the father and the mother of the year. And the criteria is that it's one of them should be a Sakada.
Okay.
And the oldest, or a couple that, you know, have been married for a long time.
A long time, yeah.
And at the third Rice Festival celebration, Mr. and Mrs. Arsenio, I forgot their last name, but they're from Lahaina, were honored as the father and mother of the year. It will come to me when I remember. We will say
honor them. Yes.
Honor them. So, although we were not able to hold the celebration at the Binhi Filipino Community Center, we very quickly put together this celebration at the Maui Waina Intermediate School because we were locked out.
Right.
From the Binhi at Ani.
Well, that's good. Center. So it still turned out to be a nice event.
Yes. But that's when you have people who come together, and you know, the celebration is for the Sakadas.
Yeah.
We cannot take that away from them. We can't say, okay, this year we're not going to do it.
No.
For what reason?
No, you got to keep doing it.
You just need to keep doing it because it has become a tradition.
Absolutely.
And I think like one of our national hero actually said, and I'll say it in Filipino first.
Okay.
Ang taong hindi marunong lumingon sa kanyang pinanggalingan ay hindi makararating sa kanyang paruroonan. In other words, if you don't look back from where you came from, in other words, you need to remember your roots.
Absolutely.
Because your roots keep you grounded.
And it created who you are.
Yes. If you forget who you are and where you came from, you'll never achieve your goals.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, is profound.
Absolutely. From
our national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal. And we showed him in our first video.
Okay. Wonderful. And then, let's see, we have... and then we have another video, which is, the Filipino culture in Hawaii. So this one was a slideshow of Maui sakadas, Maui sakadas, and then this one is more, the whole state.
Yes.
So we can watch that video in a minute.
said that Hawaii is a melting pot of many different races. The Filipino culture adds to the racial mix of Hawaii, from their colorful dances, to their traditional fashion wear, to their ethnic cuisine. Hawaii's Filipino community is today an integral part of life in these islands. The year was 1906, the year the first of 7 Filipino immigrants arrived in Hawaii. A statue in Kia'ao stands in their honor.
That statue is commemorating the site of Kia'ao, which is where the first group of sakadas was brought into of course, Oahu. The ship arrived, and then brought over to the plantation there.
Working the plantation. The sugar industry was the foundation of Hawaii's economic prosperity in the early 1900s. Thousands of laborers were brought in to work the fields for 10 cents a day. The Filipinos were part of that group.
Most of them came in with the aspect of, we are coming here to earn money to go back, not to stay. But they were kind of forced to stay because they could never quite earn enough money to return. So when the Filipinos came into Hawaii, it was actually at a time where the Japanese were striking. And as a way to break the strikes, they were looking for a new group of people that they could bring in. And at the same time, they were placed in different areas so that they would not intermingle. Because one of the things that the plantation did was set up these teams, and of course the Filipino team versus the Japanese teams, and they would kind of pit the different cultures against each other to keep that separation. And then of course the language barriers. And so a lot of the sports you'll see, the team is all Filipino.
They faced their share of racial discrimination, and some were hated for taking jobs from white men. Truth of the matter was that the Filipinos were willing to work for lower wages to support their families. By the year 1930, 120,000 Filipinos were working the fields. Soon after, they wanted more for themselves and became business owners.
Many of the Filipinos became entrepreneurs because they would, of course, like their own kind of food, their own way of doing housekeeping and laundering and gardening and things like that.
However, most of the Filipinos continued working the land and became proficient farmers.
They are people that work so hard and yet just be left alone. I mean, if they can do things and that will benefit the community, they will do that, but in a very quiet way.
Today, they celebrate their accomplishments, their contributions, and their own unique culture that honors their heritage.
It's just like to open more communications with the community, that we are here and we like to live here and we enjoy living here, and so we want to be part of the community.
There are so many achievements and contributions that the Filipinos had given to the community, specifically for the Big Island.
Gabe Baltazar, Jasmine Trias, Andy Bumatay, Tia Carrere, Benny Agbayani, and former Governor Ben Cayetano are just some of the more notable Filipinos in our community. It all started in the year 1906 with the arrival of 7 men. From these humble beginnings, the Filipinos continues to celebrate over 100 years of progress in Hawaii.
Okay, so
yes,
your comments on that?
Yes, we celebrated our 100-year, the 100-year presence of Filipinos in Hawaii. That was in 2006. That was 6 years ago, and we continue to, provide contributions to the community.
Absolutely.
And you have seen successful people, and that's one of our strengths, because you see prominent Filipinos in the area of education.
Yes.
Some of them are lawyers, doctors, many are teachers.
Yeah.
And also in the visitor industry, in the service
Absolutely.
industry, you'll find Filipinos. So.
And in the health industry.
Yes, and also in the social services industry. So you'll see them in every field there is in our community. So when it comes to finding resources, I hope that people will really go to the right people also.
Absolutely.
For instance, there are many immigrant Filipinos here who come. They work very, very hard. They earn their monies, and they would like to bring their families over. And sometimes they go to the wrong people because they don't know that immigrant services, for instance, in the county of Maui, can provide them those services for free. Well, I just heard that there were some Filipinos who would go and ask for an affidavit of support, and they're charged like $500 or even $1,000 for a document.
And tell the audience who doesn't know what they were looking for an affidavit of support for.
So if you are petitioning a family from the Philippines, a family member or members, and you would need an affidavit of support, or even to file a petition, you don't need to pay $10,000 or pay $500 or $1,000 for an affidavit of support. Actually, there are people who can help them for free.
Absolutely.
So they need to really know where to go. And I know, Netra, that you are a social worker.
Yes.
And it's about mapping out resources.
Absolutely.
And being aware that there are resources at your fingertips so that you don't get to pay all this huge amounts of money unnecessarily.
So I'm hoping that the Immigrant Resources of Maui County is going to get a flood of calls after this TV program of people realizing, wow, this is available to us for free.
That's absolutely right. Because I hate to see them waste their money.
Oh, no. And very few people have extra money just lying around in their bank account these days.
Right. They work so hard and just to spend monies unnecessarily because some people, unscrupulous people, who take advantage of people who are new here.
And don't know the ropes.
And don't know the ropes.
Exactly.
We need to help one another so that all these things that are happening right now, and there are, this is one of the social ills in the Filipino community.
Yes.
So hopefully that we help one another, ask one another, so that you can go to the right resources.
Go to the right people.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have another video on sakadas. So just to give a couple different viewpoints on that.
Yes.
Ukradek di pagkasaritaan, dagiti Filipino iti Hawaii, tapno maamwantay ti gapwanan, dagiti amatay anam wangayan, manipud iti Puerto ti Kailokwan, naglayagda itinalawa at taaw, simangladda iti kunada a paraiso, na ipanda ti pagyananda a kampo, naliday ti biagda a sakada, kas mandida maliliwat ti iliwda.
So can you tell the audience what these images are?
Okay, you've seen the Philippine map. It showed to us where the sakadas came from, and it's in the northern part of the Philippines. That Fort Salomagi in Cabugao, Ilocos Sur, is where that ship sailed from to come to Hawaii. When they went when Hawaii Sugar Plantation Association went there to recruit these plantation workers. Then they're showing us right now how hard they work, how these sakadas work for like $10 per day for 10 hours of work.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we have a federal law now governing minimum wage, and I think that that's a good thing that we're in America. Now there are laws that protect us.
Absolutely.
And that is one of the messages that I would like to impart to our listening audience right now, that some people will hire under the table, so to speak, and they pay you less than the minimum wage law. That is illegal, because we have a federal law for the minimum wage is not less than $7.25 per hour.
And the problem with that is because of inflation, that doesn't really go very far. And the other thing we have is unions. And many Filipinos, many other people in Hawaii are lucky to have unions that represent, so that people aren't at the prey, at the whim of, you know, the private corporations or the government, and that there's bargaining power.
Yes, and that's one good thing living in America.
Yes.
That there are laws that protect workers. Now, the essence of this documentary is that they've shown us the hardships, the sacrifices that the sakadas went through, and they are the pioneers amongst the Filipinos who paved the road for all of us Filipinos. We're here because of the sakadas. So the Rice Festival celebration is just one way to give back to them, to honor them, to recognize their hardships, and for paving the way for the later immigrants like me.
Absolutely. And then, you know, culture is constantly evolving. And as I've said, it's like we've shown where the Filipino culture has come from, the travails and the difficulties, and then there's now. But as we talked about before with the protests, I think in this country in general, people in general, we have to be careful that we don't start sliding backwards.
That's right. I agree with that. And, you know, we have all these issues. Like every family will have challenges and issues.
Exactly.
Now, but there are ways, like the way we did the demonstration, it was a peaceful means to express how we feel about the age discrimination, and raising the awareness of people that that's one way to express opinions. But other challenges and issues, Netra, within the Filipino community is a cultural gap.
Okay.
Cultural gap because, you know, you say, I'm a Filipino, but are you an immigrant Filipino or are you a local Filipino?
Right.
When I was a teacher at Baldwin High School, I've seen it firsthand, I experienced it firsthand, the gap amongst the Filipino born here in Hawaii and Filipinos who were born and raised in the Philippines. So there's always been the cultural gap. They even resorted to name calling.
Oh, that's not very
nice.
So
it was not good. So what happened was, that was the height of the gang problems at the high schools, because then the immigrant Filipinos banded together for self-preservation.
Yes.
And, you know, if they were being subjected to discrimination because they're immigrant Filipinos, they had no choice but unite.
Right.
And that's where you had the fights.
Yeah.
And we had different agencies who came to the high schools and helped mitigate the problem.
Right.
And I thought that we made progress in that area.
Good.
We don't hear so much now about gang problems or gaps, you know, between the immigrant Filipino and the local Filipino. And then you add a third component or factor into the equation, because you also have what we call the Filipino kotong.
Okay.
And these are the Filipinos born and raised in the United States, and they come over here and they don't really understand the culture.
Oh, okay.
So then you have a gap between the immigrant Filipinos and the Hawaii-born Filipinos. Then you have another factor into the equation, which is also a problem.
Right. Or a diversity. And I think that's what the thrust of this show is about, is diversity. That differences can become growth. They can create growth and richness.
Right. And I think that's what happened as the gap evolved.
Yes.
Amongst the high school students, that they later on understood the fact that being different is not a liability.
Exactly.
Because diversity is something that you can actually capitalize on.
Absolutely.
Because no matter where you come from, you have some talents and strengths, yes. And you can add to making the community a good community to live in.
Right, a richer community.
Yes.
With more perspectives, more traditions, different kinds of food, but different ways of seeing things. And right. Then with all the different ways, then we can eventually come to, I mean, my goal is always communities where people are more loving, more caring, more community-minded.
Right. And, you know, I think this problem of having that cultural gap is because if you understand the Philippines, it's made up of so many different islands.
Yes.
There are 3 main islands, but there are small islands, and we have 7,100 islands.
Wow.
With 87 different dialects or languages.
Oh my God.
So then people became regionalistic. So you have the Ilocanos, you have the Visayans, and then you have Pampangos, you have the Igorots, and then you have many different tribes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Philippines by itself is a diverse culture.
Is that changing now that we have more technology, like the internet, for instance?
Yes, it has changed, and we think about the world in global terms now. Mm-hmm. It is no longer where you're insular, that you have like a limited view of the world. Mm-hmm. Now you have no choice because of technology.
Yes.
That you can actually be part of the bigger global community. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So we have one final video. It's about the Maui Mrs. Filipino contest. Yes. And so let's watch that video. That's hula.
That's hula. That's the Miss Barrio Fiesta. She was a guest at the Mrs. Maui Filipino coronation.
Okay, so can you tell us about that?
Okay, you've seen Mary Grace Basig. She was one of our Miss Barrio Fiesta queens, and she performed at the Mrs. Maui Filipina coronation. And our current Mrs. Maui Filipina is Angie Jocaris of Lahaina. And we never had one this year. See, this is one of the major programs, of Binhi at Ani. The Mrs. Maui Filipina is one way to raise funds for our scholarship.
Absolutely.
Because Binhi at Ani is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation with charitable and educational purposes. So the educational part of it is where we raise funds so we can award scholarships to graduating high school students and students who are continuing in the college or university. And as you can see, this is really a major event.
1973, Mrs. Mercedes Neri.
And they're now featuring the former Mrs. Maui Filipina Queens.
She works in the mayor's office.
Mercedes Neri.
Yeah.
2002, Mrs. Joy Fontanilla.
And your reigning 2010 Sandra Filipino Tokunaga. The leading honor officers and board of directors are proud to present the 2011 Mrs. Maui Filipino Queen and her court. Let's begin with second runner-up for flower. Second runner-up.
Okay, so that's great.
Yes.
And so yeah, like you said, those are some of the former
Mrs. Maui Filipino
Mrs.
Queens.
Maui Filipino.
Yes, and it's a good thing that they continue to support the program.
Yes.
Because this is the value of education. You know, Netra, in the Philippines, people put a high premium on education.
Oh yeah.
So they would sell everything they have to send their children to school because there's no such thing as financial aid in the Philippines. So they would sell their properties,
their own
land,
houses, yeah.
You know, their carabaos or whatever they can sell, so that they can send their children to school.
Yes.
Then, for some reason or another, when families come over to, like Hawaii, that value changes.
Oh.
I think it's because of the high cost of living here.
Yes.
And so you see latchkey children
Yeah.
because both parents work.
And that's the unfortunate national trend.
Right. And then for some reason or another, the high school students change their values also. And education is no longer their top priority, but to work, earn their money, and buy their nice cars. I wish that these youngsters would really look beyond the nice cars or the jobs, the odd jobs that they can get now, and look to a higher education, because education is something that you own,
It's
and
true.
nobody can take it away
Nobody
from
can
you.
take that, no matter what.
And it's actually one way to level the playing field in America,
Yep.
especially for immigrants.
Yep.
Once you have that education, you can compete
Yes.
with anybody here in America. So our youngsters, and that's one of the reasons why Binhi at Ani has that educational purpose, is because we want our youngsters to understand and to continue understand the value of education and continue towards achieving their goals in life through education. And I think that's the reason why I'm an educator, because I really believe in the value of education.
Yeah, I mean, that is the key. That is the key, absolutely. And it's not only for improving one's earning potential, it's also for improving one's quality of life, and it's for improving one's life in many ways, not just one's enjoyment of work, because if you're doing a job that you love, then you don't mind doing it. And as I said, you can earn more money. And also, it expands people's minds. So it's not just learning as subjects, it's learning how to think. You know, learning instead of, you know, looking at the microcosm of an issue, looking at see how different things are related, looking at the microcosm. And as you know, one of the things I'm very involved in is politics. And what I would like is if more people understood how politics work and basically how important and how much power the government has. And I think people don't really understand it, and they get intimidated by political discussions, And to be honest, much of what the mainstream media is telling us is pretty skewed, and people need to know what's really happening. And you can research. That's why the internet is great. There's a lot of news programs. There's a lot of videos. And just, keep looking, and, and believe what makes sense.
Yes, I agree with you, Netra, and that's another message I would like to convey to the Filipinos. We are 16% of the
16%.
voting power.
That's what was just found out.
16% is significant.
Yeah.
And I would like to encourage all the Filipinos who are able to vote to get out there and exercise your right to vote, because you can make a difference by participating in the political process, and your voice be heard through the participation in the electoral process. And when it comes to issues affecting our community, yes, if it's skewed, there's a way to find out the real truth.
Yeah.
There's internet at your fingertips.
Absolutely.
And you can get the information in just few seconds.
And in Hawaii races, sometimes just a couple votes make a difference.
Yes.
I know a woman who ran for Senate, this was over in Oahu, and she lost by 6 votes.
And those might be 6 Filipino votes.
One family. That could be one
Yes.
family that if they had voted, it would have gone the other way.
Yes.
And I I worked, as I mentioned, for Representative Rita Cabanilla, and she would write a bill, and then she was the chair of housing, so the bill would be referred to her committee, and then she would choose to hear the bill, because it was her bill, and because nobody came and testified in favor of the bill, she would have to kill her own bill. And so that's the power that people have. If they don't testify, people don't realize how much testifying at the State House matters. Now it's hard on Maui because the legislature is in Honolulu, and people don't feel connected to it. People feel much more connected to the county council, and that's important to make our voices heard there. But the State House is very important.
Netra, there's a way because of the internet.
Exactly.
They can
and they can
send their testimonies.
Absolutely.
Via email.
I do that. You just write it and then you click send. And the thing about the State House is a bill will be heard at a certain time, and you need to testify at a certain time. But we are coming to the end, so if you could give your wrap up, please.
Oh yes, again, thank you very much, Netra, for inviting me to your show. And I hope that our Filipino community has gained awareness on their rights, freedom of expression, and you know that there are some certain rights that are guaranteed to you through the United States Constitution, and you should not be afraid to voice your opinion. And the most important part is that be united and get involved in the electoral process. Let your voices be heard, because this is America.
Well, thank you for tuning into Netra's News, and please come next time.
Oh, 1 hour went by.
Oh, yeah.